The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Do y'all feel it? Do y'all smell it? I do. You can feel it and you can smell it because now the AP poll has been released. Now, I know a lot of people are not a fan of these polls and they like to cry about them and say, oh, they should wait till October. But you got to admit, it makes you feel like college football. Those that are fiending for college football, those that us love college football, it gives us just a little something. Just whets our taste buds just a little bit. And the AP poll, as I said, is out. We're also going to talk about Trev Alberts and what he said about possible expansion coming that's going to be even more disruptive than what we just seen. Maybe even microcosming down to just 2 leagues. Let's talk about it. Here we come once again, riding on in. It's the outlaw of college football. Here comes the outlaw posse. The outlaw posse is now in effect. We're going to do things a little bit different today. I'm going to give the donors and the shout outs and the 4 horsemen and the posse members a little bit later in the show. But if you want to reach me, I am on Twitter at OCF Productions. Now, getting right to it here. It seems like Trev Alberts, the athletic director at Nebraska, who we'll touch on first here. Trev had a few things to say that were pretty eye-opening from the article I've seen on 3 and from a show that I watched last night with John Kurtz. Great channel, by the way. Check out John Kurtz. He's a good guy. And basically, they were saying that Trev Alberts said that the next round of expansion is going to be even more disruptive than this one. And I don't know how it could get much more disruptive than this one when you had an entire conference that had been around for 130 years go by the wayside like the dinosaurs. As the Pac-12 is more than likely going to be extinct unless, like I said, they fill in with a bunch of MAC teams or they merge, not MAC, the Mountain West, excuse me. If they merge with the Mountain West or the AAC or something like that, it's only going to be Pac-12 in name at that point. I do think there'll be some kind of merger, but I think the Pac-12 name is probably going away. For nostalgic purposes, that's probably a sad thing for a lot of people. But Trev Alberts went on to say that he sees it as maybe there's just going to be 40 teams that's going to be able to get in the 12-team playoff. And I've heard that before, that, you know, they want to go to 2 mega conferences with the Big Ten and the SEC, and the Big Ten and the SEC want to try to form their own version of the NCAA, their own version of, I guess, a mini NFL, and have their own championship and cut out the middlemen, or not even the middlemen, but cut out the smaller programs, what they consider smaller programs. And I'm not a big fan of that. Now, I am an SEC guy, and you would think I would support that, but I don't, because I like college football in general. And I don't want to see all these great varieties and brands go away. The NFL, that's why I don't watch the NFL, is because it's too microcosm down for me. And what he's talking about is just going to 40 teams, and that's just not good, man. To me, that's not good at all, man. You might as well call it the minor league of the NFL at that point. So it's 40 teams. Trev, he may know more than I think he does, and he may be right about this, but if he is right about it, I'm very disappointed in where college football is going. What I see is maybe he is somewhat right. There may be some half-truth to it. He may want it to go down to 40 because that's one of those elitist things that, as John Kurtz has said before, some of these Nebraska people are somewhat arrogant, and for what reason, I don't know. He said it's been like 8,600 and some odd days since they've won a conference title, so the arrogance should not be there. And what Trev needs to watch out for is the talk of contraction, because that keeps popping up too. And people want to try to keep dismissing it because they just don't see it happening. But teams like Northwestern in the Big Ten, Mississippi State, they don't bring very much as far as eyeballs in metropolitan area, and neither does Alabama and Oklahoma and teams like that, but they have an established tradition with alumni that's all over. I'm just saying. And those two teams don't. But what Trev better watch for is Nebraska. It sort of slipped a little bit. They're not as powerful as they once were. They're in a state that's pretty obsolete to just about everything, in my opinion. I get pissed off when I say that, but I don't hear of anybody ever going on vacations in Nebraska or calling that a destination place to visit. Do you? Maybe South Dakota, one of their neighboring states, with a Mount Rushmore, but they don't even have a mountain with faces on it in Nebraska. So Trev better watch what he says, in my opinion. But what I think is going to happen, I think it is probably going to microcosm down a little bit, and they are going to cut some of these programs out that have a chance to make it. The days of Cincinnati, they're in a Power 5 conference now, but a better example might be Boise State. The days of Boise State maybe having a chance at getting into the top 12. Right now they have that chance because they're going to allow a non-Power 5 team, maybe even two, to make that 12-team playoff. Well, what Trev Alberts and a lot of the elitists want is they don't want that team cutting in on their slices of pie. They want the expanded playoff. That's their way of fooling you up and saying, well, we're letting out having an opportunity for everybody, even the little man. But that's not the case. Because what they're trying to do, in my opinion, is they probably won't cut down to 40, but they'll eventually, I think, go down to 60. Somewhere between 60 and 72 teams, and it'll be the Big Three. It'll be the Big 10, the SEC, and the Big 12. By the way, those two conferences, one of them needs to change their name. I know people say, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you can. People have changed their names before. I saw this guy, I can't remember the podcast, he was saying, you can't change names because that's their brand. Big 12 ain't been around that long, jackass. Do your homework. The Big 10 has, but not the Big 12. The Big 12 needs to change their name, but that's another topic for another day. But you guys tell me what you think about all this. You think they're going to microcosm it down to just the Big 10, the SEC, and just have maybe the top 40 or 50 teams? I hope not. I think that would suck. I think, like I said, I think it's going to microcosm down to 60 to 72 with the Big 12 included. And they will end up cutting out the AAC, the Conference USA, and whatever the Pac-12 becomes with the Mountain West. I think all those teams will be ass out. Now, in the basketball tournament, it'll be a little different. That's a whole different animal. But that's what I think. Y'all drop it in the comment section and tell me what you think. Now, let's give the Four Horsemen shout out of the day. And if you want your Four Horsemen shout out periodically and you want to get your badge and get deputized and be in the Four Horsemen posse, there is a little button there. It's the join button and the subscribe. Next to the subscribe button, you can join the Outlaw Posse for just $2.99 a month and 75 cents a week. But the Four Horsemen of the day are Chicken 1515, Eric Blomquist, Mike Wilkerson, and the Rhino 26. Also, we have 3 new posse members that just saddled up and mounted up. Had to buy a lot of saddles for this one. We got 3 new members in the Outlaw Posse, and they are as follows. Spencer Rattler, Sidney Long, and Rich Castle are in the Outlaw Posse now. They are mounted up, saddled up, they got their badge, and they're now deputized. Also, we had a few donors to the program. Old 56-timer with a $10 donation, Johnny Fairlane, VDRL, Daryl Madden, Hoss, and Sisyphus JWK with the biggest donation of $25. Now, back to the show here. The AP Top 25 came out. I got it listed here in front of me. I'm going to have to look at my notes today because I can't remember all 25 of these and the others receiving votes. And that's where we'll start to whet everybody's taste a little bit. Like I said, there's going to be some people coming here and complaining because they're going to be like, well, we shouldn't make polls till October. But I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good tradition that we need to keep. It might aggravate people, but it's good talk. In the others receiving votes, I'll throw up some screenshots. The ones that stuck out to me were UTSA, South Carolina, Texas Tech, James Madison, and Florida. I think UTSA is a sleeping giant. The city of San Antonio is a growing hub of a city, and they've got huge support there. I think if UTSA gets on a run, they could be one of those spoilers that gets in the top 12 this year, especially with them playing Tennessee and a few other big-name schools. If they were to upset a couple of those, you could see the blossoming, I can't even talk today, the blossoming of maybe a sleeping giant and a new powerful program, sort of like Miami did back in the 1980s. South Carolina probably should have been ranked higher. I think South Carolina probably should be in the top 25, in my opinion, as well as Texas Tech. James Madison is another team that's a budding power, in my opinion. And Florida sort of surprised me as well, even though they didn't have a great year last year. I thought Florida might be in the top 25, but they're not. But in the top 25, in the bottom 5, we have Iowa, Tulane, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and North Carolina. Those are in the bottom 5. Then, as we go into the top 20, the Oklahoma Sooners are back in the top 20 to start the season. At number 20, number 19, the Wisconsin Badgers, Oregon State, TCU, Kansas State, Oregon, Utah, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Texas are in the teens. Texas, they look like they're thinking maybe Texas is finally coming back. The one that really stands out to me in this is Oregon State at number 18. Oregon State, sad thing for Oregon State is just when they're budding and just when they're coming around as a program, because to be honest with you, Oregon State's been a horrific program over a period of 100 plus years. And now that they're starting to get their legs about them, their conference is dismantled. And that's what's sad about this. Teams like Oregon State, what they're talking about, when they go to just the 40 to 60 teams that they're talking about, possibly 72, teams like Oregon State will no longer have a opportunity to win a national championship. They'll probably form another division, like a 1AA like they used to have. And Oregon State and those other teams and those other conferences that I mentioned before will have their own championship. But I'm not a big fan of that. It's sad to me. I know I'm an Alabama fan. You would think I would be, like I said before, but I don't know. It just don't feel right. Now for the top 10. You got Washington, Clemson, Florida State, Penn State, USC, LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia, of course. Now see, here's the problem I have with these preseason polls. I like them. They wet my taste buds a little bit. Get me through until the football season starts somewhat. But they always go chalk, it seems like, from last year. There's no really outstanding surprise top 10 team that you can maybe give us some meat on, like, hey, maybe that's a dark horse national championship contender, a dark horse contender for a playoff spot. I don't see a dark horse on here. Unless you want to consider, I don't know, Washington is a dark horse, but Washington's been in the playoffs before. So like I said, it goes chalk every year, it seems like, top 10. Even into the top 15, it seems like it goes chalk. Now, Utah being at 14, that's another thing. How is it Utah's ranked 14th? I can understand maybe Utah being ranked behind USC. People thinking, well, maybe it's USC's time. They're finally going to get over that Utah hump. But to say that USC is 8 spots better than Utah, who beat them, was it the last 3 or 4 times they played? And they beat them twice last year, and they housed their ass in the Pac-12 title game. I mean, they destroyed them. So, I don't get that one either. I don't think Georgia's going to three-peat. Michigan, I could go with that. Ohio State, they lost their quarterback just like Alabama did. So, I don't know if Ohio State and Alabama, them being my team, I still don't know if maybe they're a little overrated, considering they're both breaking in new quarterbacks. And in Alabama, we really don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be. Jalen Milroe really hasn't solidified himself, and neither has Ty Simpson, nor the Tyler Buckner kid that transferred from Notre Dame. But that's the top 25. Wet our taste buds a little bit. It's getting close, brothers and sisters. That's all I got today. That's all I got to say about that. If you don't mind, there's a little heart down here with a $sign in it. Hit that. Throw a few dollars in the coffers. Make a one-time donation if you want to. And as I said before, you can also join the Outlaw Posse and get your badge and get deputized for only $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams, class is now officially dismissed.